Okay, we'll start. Yes, Jagadeesh.
Yes, sir, we can start, sir. Just a minute, sir. Students will be sharing the screen.
Sir, can I start, sir?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. It's time.
Yeah, please start.
Good evening to one and all present here. I, Punita, on behalf of first year MAHRM, DG Vaishnav College, welcome you all for today's webinar on the topic HR roles in risk management. Let us welcome our speaker for the day, Mr. Chidambaram. He holds master degree in personal management and industrial relation from St. Joseph College, Tiruchi. He is a senior certified professional from Society for Human Resource Management, USA. He has successfully completed Executive Development Program in Human Resource Management from XLRI Jamshedpur. He has Certified Compensation and Benefit Management Manager from Cartland Advanced Management Institute and Secure I distinction, and also Certified HR Analytics and Metric Professional from Cartland Advanced Management Institute and Secure I distinction. Certified External Member for POSH Committee from National Institute of Personnel Management. He has an overall experience of more than 19 years in the entire gamut of HR and IR function across diversified sectors such as chemical, electronics, textile, and contraceptives and service industries. He is currently Director and Human Resource for Gaius Network, an IT startup. He delivers guest lectures on various subjects to eminent educational institute, part-time faculty for leading educational institute, member of Society for Human Resource Management USA, life member of National Human Resource Development Network, and also life member of National Institute of Personnel Management, life member of Indian Society for Training Development. He is passionate about learning and sharing knowledge. We welcome you, sir. Now, I would like to introduce our head of the Department of Human Resource Management, DG Vaishnav College, Dr.N.C.Martin. He is an highly experienced academician and has about 24 years of academic and administrative experience as professor, HOD, dean, and registrar. He did post graduation in labor management and PhD in labor law from Tamil Nadu Institute of Labor Studies. He started his career as lecturer from the same institution. He held various positions in the Arts and Science College, Engineering and Media College. He held academic positions in various educational institutes such as Sri Chandraprabhu Jain's College as assistant professor, HOD of MSW department, Sam's College of Engineering and Technology as a professor and HOD of MBA department. He was also placement officer for entire division of Sam's College of Engineering and Technology. During his tenure, he successfully placed engineering and management graduate in top-notch company of manufacturing and service sectors across the country. He continued his career in St. Joseph College of Arts and Science as Dean of Academic and LV Prasad Film School, one of the best film schools in Asia, worked as a registrar. He acted as a jury representing the Employees Federation of Southern India for selection companies for the best practice for the year 2018 and 19. He has added number of research paper and publication to his credit. He is expert in subject of labor legislation and industry relation. He has given centum result in various HR specialized subject in university exam. We welcome you, sir. This meeting is recorded for educational purpose. In case of any doubt or question, the participant can unmute themselves or type a question in a chat box. Now I request Dr. N.C. Martin to speak a few words about the topic for the day.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you, sir.
So, on behalf of management, Sri Ashok Kumar Mudraji, that is our secretary, and our principal, Captain Dr.S.Santhosh Baboo, I welcome all the participants for this evening webinar. And I'm very most pleased to welcome our the resource person of the day, Chidambaram sir, the director of HR Gaius Network.
Thank you, sir.
And
Thank you.
yeah, dear professors and students, and also HR fraternities who have joined this webinar. So from start from the last pandemic, so we completed 75, that is Diamond Series Jubilee of webinars. And after a small break, so once again we started. So it's our successful. We have been hosting webinars in order to enrich the knowledge for the students with all the supports of the people from HRs and other industries, and especially our Chidambaram sir. So it is third webinar. So in the last one, yeah, for the 75th Diamond Jubilee, so he was the moderator for the international conclave. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So the topic for the day, the role of HR in risk management. So I'm not going to be very specific into that because we have a wonderful resource person. So we'll be sharing his inputs for us. So the risk management, we can say it is a process in order to identify and also to assess and control the threats to an organizations. Especially, if you see the threats organization, generally we can say it's about the capital and the earnings. So whereby it should be given a prioritization of risk. So what risk has to be given a priority. And further, in order to mitigate the risk, there should be proper application of resources, mostly to minimize and monitor and also to control the impact of the unfortunate events or to maximize the realization of the opportunities, we can say. So in brief, we can say that to minimize the risk, that is the unfortunate events, and maximize the benefits out of the opportunities. So these risks may come from a variety of sources, maybe from financial uncertainties, legal liabilities, maybe technological issues, and error due to some strategic management and employee accidents, and also the natural disasters and so on. So risk management has perhaps, taking our current scenario, it's never been more important than it is now because due to the pandemic situation. So the risk the organization are facing today are grown more complex due to the rapid pace of globalization. So the new risks are constantly emerging. So the main reason is due to use of the technology. So the coronavirus pandemic has also affected the entire business world. So and it has made a huge impact on the health and safety of the employees. So despite the organizations have started to make a rapid adjustment to the threats posed by this pandemic, but they are moving forward facing with the new types of risk in regard to bringing back the employees to the office and also to maintain a balance in the supply chain due to the ongoing crisis. So in the present scenario, so the organizations are thinking, so how this risk can be mitigated, and they are trying the ways and means to mitigate this risk by exploring how the technology, that is by using technology, artificial intelligence, and a sophisticated governance in order to improve the risk management. So for that, the enterprise risk management program will surely help the companies to be as smart as they can manage the risk. So one thing is for sure, that the organization trying to grow without risk management strategy, so will not prosper in the long run. And further, they should explore multiple strategies to overcome the internal and external threats. They should have a good risk management plan in order to face and mitigate the risk by ensuring suitable policies and procedures. So most of the organization, if you see, they have started to realize the importance of creating risk awareness to the employees by means of developing communication plan to convey the organization risk policies and procedures. So on the whole, we can say that COVID-19 pandemic has driven many organizations to only re-examine their risk practices, but also to explore new techniques and technologies and the processes for managing the risk. So with this, I conclude and leave the session to a resource person and to throw much light and experience. So that will come out of his experience for this wonderful topic for the day. Thank you. All the best.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Martin, sir, for the wonderful introduction. So I'm not going to get into the what is risk management, as professor has clearly explained it in detailed. In a nutshell, he has beautifully explained it. I'm not going to get into the details of the risk management definition and the theoretical part. So this is evolving. First, as budding HR professionals, all of you should know this is a evolving subject in HR. It's not like your hiring or your compensation and benefits, which are very visible activities. This is a buzzing topic. It's an evolving topic in the HR domain. So one may think, so what is in it for me as far as risk management is concerned? I am a human resource professional. I'm going to handle people. I'm going to hire people. I'm going to train them. I'm going to reward them. I'm going to retain them. But what I'm going to do with the risk management is whether it is a predominantly it is a safety function, whether it is a finance function, as Sir was pointing out, whether it's related to financial reporting. Yes, certainly. But HR has got an important role to play, which a professor also highlighted during the introduction. We need to frame policies, procedures, communication. He emphasized the communication part, which is very, very important, communicating critical information. So risk management, as I see, is the job of every leader in the organization. It's not only the job of finance professionals or safety professionals or HR professionals per se. It is the job of every leader in the organization. Earlier, as human resource professionals, quite before some time, earlier means not very long back, some maybe a decade ago, I would say, we were only dealing with the security and safety of the organization. Security, health, and safety of the organization. We were confined to ourselves with these three aspects of the risk management of an organization. But now, if you see, especially after this pandemic in this last 24 months, so there are a variety of threats which are causing tremendous pressure to the business as well as to the employees. And therefore, the HR has a wider scope to play in this risk management as compared to earlier. So because of this, the HR to, there's an important metric, HR to employees ratio. It's an important HR metric. What is the ratio of human resource professional to employees in the organization? Earlier, it was 1:100. That is, for every 100 employees, you should have one HR professional. Because of all this pandemic and other stuff, the stress and the workload of the HR professionals have gone up tremendously. And therefore, the metrics now, the metrics is given by SHRM. Now the metrics has been redefined as 1:50, which means for every 50 employees, you should have one HR professional. So one can envisage how the workload has gone up tremendously. So this is one point which you should be aware of. See, as I said, as even during the introductory note, professor was mentioning about the frauds associated with the data breach, data privacy, technology, theft, etc. Okay, so actually it's our duty to work with IT department and create the policy, roll out the policy, and communicate the policy, which was also mentioned during the introductory speech. So its communication is very critical. Unless and otherwise, people will not know. So let me get into the presentation with this brief thing. So I'll just share my presentation. So this is the agenda we have today, starting from the preview, which was given by professor and myself, and then we will move on to risk management process, the risk categories, barriers and principles, risk scorecard, misaligned risks, which I'll be spending some time there. Risk management tactics, we'll have a discussion there with the students. Then there are some models, a famous model called the PAPA model with respect to risk management. Then what are the competencies required for HR professional to handle risks? So I leave it to the host to take it forward from here. Punita, can you just come in?
Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, clear.
Yeah, okay, sir. So what should I do, sir?
Hello.
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, audible, very much clear. You can go ahead.
Sir, actually,
Yeah,
I'll be mediating with the questions.
Who's that?
Sir, Srisha, this is Srisha, sir.
Okay, I didn't know that. Sorry.
Oh, that's
yeah.
okay. No problem. So, can you briefly explain about the risk management process, sir?
Yeah, sure. See, risk management process. Let me just move on to the next slide. So these things will come to it later. Okay, so the risk management, as far as the risk management process, if you see from this slide, the first step is to identify the risks. So the organization should know what are the risks which are there available to the organization, because of the risks may be internal or the risks may be external. The risks may arise due to the internal processes, or the risks may arise due to external environment like the pandemic. Okay, a data breach may be an internal risk. A pandemic of this magnitude may be an external risk, or a political power change in political power may be external risks. Whether the policy, whether the upcoming budget will favor the industry or not, may be external risk. So that is identifying the risk. Then you need to analyze the risk. So for analyzing the risk, we have various modalities like your risk scorecard, risk matrix, risk scorecard, risk appetite, the PAPA model, etc., which we will discuss. Then you need to evaluate or rank the risk. So you can ask, why sir, we have identified, we have analyzed, why we need to rank? See, unless and otherwise you rank, prioritize, you will not know which risk to attend to first, which you need to eliminate immediately, which you can park it separately. And the fourth one is, how do you treat the risk? What are the risk control measures? How do you mitigate the risk, thereby lessening the impact and maximizing the opportunities? And the fifth one is very important. You need to continuously monitor and review the risk. It's not that you mitigate the risk. You need to continuously monitor whether the risk still exists or whether a secondary risk arises because of the primary risk. There's something called primary risk and secondary risk. Secondary risk arises because of the primary risk. We are not going to get into that. So for that, you need to monitor and review the risk. So the risk management process is very important. This should be aligned with the organization's strategy. Whatever the business strategy the organization has, this risk management process should be integrated with that. It cannot be in isolation. Yeah, Srisha.
So next, could you tell us about different categories associated with risk management, sir?
Okay. So before I move on to that, that's an interesting question, categories of risk. Just I have an abstract which is as latest as yesterday. It's extracted from the Economic Times, which I strongly recommend each one of you to read every day. The annual subscription is just $600 or something, but it's worth $1 billion, the paper. So you'll get a lot of data there. So if you go through that, in yesterday's ET, the survey says about the risk management. So they have surveyed 89 countries in the globe and 2,650 risk management experts. So the survey, the purpose of the survey is to find out what would be the major risks for the business, for the industry in 2022, that is in the current year. So now let's have a look. So as per this chart, if you see cyber incidents and business interruption, these are the two major risks, which is a result of this findings, which will be there in 2022. And if you see further, if you go down, see the plus indicates the change with respect to year on year, what was last year and this year. So if you see there is a minus 18% there in pandemic outbreak, which means it is reduced, but it's still there. But what it says is natural catastrophes. So that has climbed up actually 8%, which is a cause for concern, like your earthquake or your flood, which Chennai has been witnessing every year, or climate change. So these are the two things which are actually gaining significance. And they have also mentioned changes in legislation and regulation. Yes, all your labor laws are changing, new tax regimes, climate change, which we discussed, fire explosion, market developments. So now I move on to the risk categories. See, one is there are general categories of risk, and the second one is the Committee of Sponsoring Organization, which is headquartered in US, has categorized the various types of risks. First, let us see the general categories of risk. First is known unknowns. So here there are two factors. That is, first you should know whether the risk is there and what is the severity of the risk. Whether the risk, existence of the risk and the severity of the risk. If you know both, then there is no uncertainty. So known unknowns means there is less uncertainty. You know that the risk exists. You also know the magnitude of the impact. Okay, that is known known. Second one is known unknown. You know that the risk exists. You have identified the risk, but you do not know the magnitude. That is unknown. So there is some uncertainty there. Unknown. This has a huge impact because you do not know that this risk may suddenly bombard, suddenly come. You also do not know the magnitude of the impact, like the pandemic or any sea change in the technology, sea change in the regulations, or a dramatic turnaround in the upcoming state elections, 5 state elections, something like that. Because everything pertains to policy, right? Each state government frames its own policy when the government changes. Then you have unknown knowns. These are actually misconstrued. These are things which we, as an organization, employer, believe that we feel that we know that the risk exists. We actually misunderstand these risks. Okay. The third one is really very, very important. There is there is something called black swan theory. So it is the blind side. We do not know what is going to happen and what will be the impact. So suddenly it picks up and it kills you. The third category. Categorization. Now let us move on to the categorization by COSO. Okay. So the first one is strategy. So these are the risks which actually impacts the ability to achieve the objectives of the organization. Okay, in simple words. Then the operations. So these risks affect in 1,000 ways in which the organization creates values. Then the financial reporting. So if there are some errors in your balance sheet or profit and loss, and if you don't submit it on time, and then you will be questioned by the board and by your shareholders. Then there is something associated with the compliance. Either the employer will be imprisoned or will pay a hefty fine. So these are the 4 broad classifications by a committee of sponsoring organizations. Strategic risks. So if there is a risk document, you should classify the risks under these 4 headings only. Strategy, from strategy perspective, what are the risks which may impact the achievement of the objectives? Operations, financial reporting, and compliance. Ideally, this will be the KRA for your compliance officer, I would say, for your chief compliance officer. Okay.
So, according to you, what would be the barriers that hinder the risk management process? And could you tell us about the principles of risk management process too?
Okay. Moving on to the barriers, as I see it, there are three barriers. I think this is self-explanatory. Structural, the structure of the organization. It should not be a barrier for risk management. Okay, it's self-explanatory. You can surf the net and see what is a structural barrier to risk management. The organization structure doesn't support the risk management process. Cognitive is something related to your thinking ability. And third one is obviously the cultural barrier. So these three are the barriers to risk management. And if you see the principles, the principles which I have listed down are derived from ISO, International Organization for Standardization, ISO 31,000. Like you have the QMS 9001 QMS, EMS is 14,001 Environmental Management System. Similarly, for risk management system, there is something called ISO 13,000, 31,000. There are 11 principles. Let us see. The first principle is the organization has to create value. The risk management program should create and protect value. Okay. It should create value. It should protect value. Second is, as I earlier said during my previous couple of slides ago, it should be integrated with all the organizational processes, not only with your HR process, not only with your recruitment, also with the other processes. Third one is the program should be a part of the decision making. It should aid in decision making. These are ISO principles, right? Globally accepted principles. So explicitly address uncertainty. That is the purpose. So reduce uncertainty, maximize the opportunity. It should be systematic, structured. So this structure here, the structure here and this structural has some connection. Okay. Then the sixth one is it should be based on best available information. It should be based on the available information. You should not go and do a research on the information which is not available and assume things. Then the seventh and eighth are it should fit an organization's risk and control environment, and it should take into account the cultural factors which we have discussed here, the human and cultural factors. How the program would fit into our culture. And the last 3 points. It should be transparent and inclusive. If you have a program or a policy in place and if you put it in the refrigerator in cold storage, then what is the purpose of the policy? It should be transparent. It should be inclusive. It should include everyone. It should not be exclusive. It should include all categories. It should include harassment. It should include sexual harassment. It should include gender diversity, everything. And 10th one is be dynamic, iterative, and responsive to change. It should be dynamic, that is periodical review, periodical monitoring and review, and therefore you can change it. You can be dynamic. It should be iterative. You should test it. You should do a case study, and should be responsive to change. And final point is facilitate continual improvement. And the whole ISO is based on the concept of continual improvement. Okay, continuous improvement is something you improve to a certain stage and stop there, whereas continual improvement is something which you go beyond that curve and keep on improving continuously.
So in risk management, we have a concept called risk scorecard. So could you elaborate more on that, please, sir?
Yeah, that is a very important concept. That is the basis for actually prioritizing the risks. Okay, let me get into that. Sorry, this is the latest slide. Yeah, I'll get into the risk scorecard. Okay, so risk scorecard. See, the one is the probability, even probability. How likely a risk is to occur. So how likely bullying is likely to happen in the organization. Out of 500 cases, out of 500 employees, if only one case of bullying has happened in the past year, then the probability is remote, right? No need to give counseling to everyone on bullying. So that is the probability. Occurrence. Then how is the speed of onset? Once it occurs, how fast it actually spreads. Okay, speed of onset. For example, the pandemic, the Omicron, they say it's faster than the wind. Okay. How well the organization is currently prepared for a risk. So this is what are the mitigation measures in place. If pandemic is there, what are your control measures? Have you eliminated biometric attendance system? Have you eliminated overcrowding in the canteen? Have you ensured adequate social distancing in workplaces, in the cafeteria? Are people wearing masks? These are the mitigation measures. And what is the severity of impact? How it's going to impact? So even probability is whether it is highly probable, moderately probable, or it's not at all probable. Speed of onset is how fast, medium or slow. Existing mitigation measures, really strong, moderate, not strong. Severity of impact, huge, medium, less. So you will have to categorize, and if you multiply even probability, so because each one has got a score, right? A matrix. If you multiply even probability, speed of onset into existing mitigation multiplied by severity of impact, you will get a risk ranking index. Okay, risk threat index. So whichever has the highest score, you will have to divert your resources to mitigate that particular risk. You will have to allot your resources towards that. So that is the purpose of risk scorecard, to prioritize risks and to allot resources.
So, what are misaligned risks?
It's something very important actually, misaligned risks. Okay, let me talk about it in detail. So under misaligned risks, these are the risks which are not aligned with the organization's systems, which exists in every. I'm not saying it exists in every organization, which may be common. One is moral hazard. See, the concept of moral hazard is a person doing an activity which may put another person into danger. I'm doing one activity, but I know I'm well protected because of that activity. For example, people in the shop floor are not wearing PPEs, personal protective equipments, or not wearing helmets, PPEs like helmets, or gloves, or earplugs in the high noise area. Okay, so they are not adhering to the PPE standards. I know that I'm watching as a shop floor supervisor, I'm watching, but I'm ignoring. Because I feel that it's an attitude issue and I cannot correct it. But I'm not taking any action because I'm sure if the person falls sick, there is insurance. So I'm doing an activity which puts the other person into danger, knowing that my organization is protected. That is moral hazard. Okay. And second one is principal agent problem. Here principal is employer, agent is employee. Again, it is an extension of moral hazard. Here the employee indulges in an activity which is not aligned with the employer principal's core values, and thereby eroding the value. So it's not an alignment. I'm doing some activity which is not in alignment with the employer. That is principal agent problem. More or less, it's similar, moral hazard and principal agent, just a minor difference. And the final one is conflict of interest, which all of you know. So we'll have opposing set of incentives for doing a particular activity. Suppose I am requesting, because suppose I'm recommending a vendor who is my close friend to implement a HRIS package. So I have vested interests. So that is conflict of interest. Suppose my spouse is working under me, or I am working under my spouse, and I am appraising her performance. There is conflict of interest. It can't be done, right? Within the same department, the blood relatives reporting to each other. So this is conflict of interest. These things impact the organization in the medium to long run.
Sir, could you elucidate about the risk management tactics?
Yeah, sure. Actually,
Yes, sir.
yeah, 1 minute, 1 minute. I'll just give a brief introduction. See, this tactics generally risk, the meaning risk connotes negative, uh, negative impression in the minds of all of us, right? Everybody feels risk means negative, losing money, dying, or getting admitted in the hospital. There is the risk of driving the vehicle in the ECR during Saturdays and Sundays. There is a risk of investing in equities during budget time. See, generally risk means what we think it's a negative activity. We have a negative connotation, but it is not the case. We should clearly understand as HR professionals, only if you take a risk there will be a reward. So risk has both positive sides and negative sides. It has both positive upsides and negative downsides. That is what we are trying to emphasize here: the upside risk management tactics and the downside management tactics. There are four approaches: eliminating uncertainty, redefining ownership, employing levers to increase or decrease effect, take no action. Out of which the first two, let us hear from our budding professionals.
Bharat, sir.
Yeah, Bharat, please go ahead.
There are four methods of risk management tactics, where today we are going to see only two types. One is eliminate uncertainty and then redefine ownership. First, eliminate uncertainty. The organization or function takes steps to guarantee that positive risk events will happen and negative one will not happen. These steps must be thoroughly researched and analyzed to explain that desired absolute desired degree of certainty. Here in this eliminate uncertainty, what they are telling is the steps to taking necessary steps to prevent negative event in the organization, so that what should have to be done and what not to be have to be done in the organization should everything should be analyzed by the HRs, and through that they will be forming policies. Yeah, there are two types of examples were given. Upside and downside for eliminate uncertainty. Um, One first thing is optimize. HR is developing a global assignment policy to make the assignment program as attractive as possible and attractive the greatest number of qualified candidates. HR includes a guaranteed income provision. Again, avoid. HR is screening the applications and passes over a problematic one. The individual has the required skills and is immediately available. However, employment history shows periods of brief employment and unexplained gaps in employment. The early departures and gaps could have legitimate reasons, but they could also signify difficulty in adapting to work environment. HR decided to remove the applications to secondary consideration after the other group A applications are screened. And redefine ownership. Ownership in this case refers to responsibility for financial costs and operations. Sharing means that another party will be bought in to help maximize the upside potentials of an uncertainty event. Firms frequently engage in strategic alliance and joint ventures to manage higher levels of uncertainty in some strategic initiatives, such as developing a new product or expanding into another country. Transferring means that a third party, frequently an insurer, will bear financial losses, obligations, or possibly in liabilities in exchange for a free. HR professions will always be aware, however, that ownership is never completely transferred for negative events. Organization will suffer from loss of consumer confidence, even though they may have been protected from liability damages after consumer complaints. Here, redefined ownership is means where the one company is having they're producing a product. Once they are sharing to another company, instead of losing the instead of losing their income, so they tie up with other company to bear their loss. So here the insurance they employ or product so regain the money from the insurance companies. Here there are two tactics. Here there are two types of examples were given upside and downsides for um, redefined ownership. Share. Retail is expecting a very brisk holiday season and HR has hired temporary workers to increase staff levels. If season proven to be more successful than management anticipated, insufficient staffing could mean empty shelves, angry customers and lost sales. So HR arranges with a staffing agency for contingent workers who will be available as needed, although at a higher rate than the temporary workers are being paid. A firm that regularly assigns employees to areas in which kidnapping is more probable will obtain kidnapping and ransom insurance coverage. This insurance usually includes the service of experts who assumes responsibility for negotiation for the employee's release. These are the two types of tactical for risk management. Sir, even you could elaborately explain, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Bharat.
Bharat, sir.
Bharat, okay, Bharat. Thanks, you have explained it. So, the positive and the negative side. So, this is something important which everyone has to know. With the examples, he has explained it. The point is, you can share the risk, but you cannot completely transfer. You cannot completely come out of the liability as far as redefined ownership is concerned. And in the first example, which you were saying is, you are optimizing the number of applications by giving some kind of he was mentioning about some compensation, some incentive he was mentioning, and you are avoiding because there is a employment gap. Even though the candidate is good, there is an employment gap on seeing his profile, so which is a cause for concern, and therefore you are rejecting that application. So you are avoiding that. Yeah, thanks, Bharat.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So usually when we take a concept, we will have models associated with it. Models will usually be given by experts. So regarding risk management, are there models associated with this topic as well?
Yeah, there are many models. Let me explain one eminent model called the PAPA model, PAPA. Okay. Let me explain that. So here, if you see, it's called the PAPA model. Why it's called PAPA is park, adapt, prepare, and act. Okay. The first P stands for park, A stands for adapt, P stands for prepare, A stands for act. So on the x-axis, you have the likelihood of the event. That is what they have described in the x-axis. If you see likelihood, it's here. Okay. And in the y-axis, the speed of change in this matrix. So if the probability of occurrence, that is the likelihood of event, probability of occurrence is low, okay, is low. And the speed of change, speed of onset is also slow. It is slow fast, it is low high here. If it is low and if it is slow, then you can park that particular risk. Okay, example, the bullying, which I said. You can park it for the time being. No need to take any action now, as of now. You can just park it and watch it. Whereas, if the likelihood of the event is low, but the speed of change is fast. Okay, likelihood is low, speed of change may be fast. Then you will have to prepare. Then you will have to prepare for the particular risk. For example, the likelihood of a terrorist attack in our Mumbai sales office is low to medium, let us say. Okay, it cannot be in a continuum, either this side or this side, low to medium. And then speed of change, it may be fast. Once that is there, then they do it in 11 different places, which we saw in 9/11 attacks, 2001, I think. We saw that. So it's very fast. So you need to prepare for that. And then moving on, if the probability is high, and the speed of change is also high, probability is high, speed of change is also high, then you need to act on it immediately. You cannot park it, or you cannot prepare for that. You cannot be in the you cannot park that particular risk, or you cannot do the preparation work. During this stage, you will have to get into action. immediately implement the contingency plan, crisis management plan, etc. Then, if the likelihood of the event is high and the speed of change is slow, then you will have to adapt to it. Likelihood is high, but the speed of change. Okay, likelihood is high. There may be rains. There is a great chance for rain, but now the cycle has changed. Monsoon has changed. Even in December, we are witnessing rains. The other day, which we saw, which was not in the history. Likely, but the speed of change may be slow. One day it rains, other day it stops suddenly, and you get record rains. So you will have to adapt to it. Now we are all of us are adapted, no, to the condition of roads, potholes everywhere. That is what. Yeah.
So, what do you think are the competencies for HR professionals in order to manage various risks that arise in an organization?
Yeah, there are some important competencies which HR professionals should possess to handle the risk management program. It's a strategic activity. Risk management is a strategic activity, high level activity. It is reviewed in the board meetings regularly, periodically. It is a board level subject. Therefore, as a CHRO, one has to have knowledge on the risk management. What are the competencies which a HR professional must possess? Let us see in detail. Yeah. So the first three are he should understand the business. Okay. If he understands the business only, he will come to know. He'll be able to frame a risk management policy. Then, as I said, one should know the risk management process, the various models, knowledge on the pestle factors. Can any one of you unmute yourself and abbreviate this pestle? What does pestle stand for? You can just Google and see. Yeah, everything is there on Google. Nothing is anything you can get there.
Hi, sir. Bhagyalakshme here.
Yeah, please.
PESTEL is political, economical, social, technological, legal, and environmental, if I'm not wrong.
Correct. What's your name?
Bhagyalakshme, sir.
Good, Bhagyalakshme.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
you're perfectly right. This PESTLE is a environmental scanning approach. You need to scan the environment, which I was highlighting during the beginning of the conversation. You need to know the external environment. As you rightly said, political, economical, social. Whether there is any political change, whether any economical change, whether US Fed is going to hike the rates, the inflation is going to be high, whether the bond yields are going to give much better results, whether any regulation is going to take place for crypto, then your technology changes. So everything is in cloud, and whether how many ransomware attacks have happened in your system, how many people have adhered, bring your own device policies. Then the complete legal framework. What are the changes in the various laws in the various countries? What are the new laws enacted with respect to combating bribery, etc.? Then finally, what is the final one? Environmental. Yeah, environmental factors. What are the environmental factors? What is it in for the climate change? Okay, so these are this is about PESTEL. Then the policies and programs, the human resource CHRO should be able to frame the policies and roll out the programs. He should consult with all the stakeholders. He should consult with the relevant experts in the field, with the top management, and not only the top management, with the middle management and lower management also, because you will get the ideas only from the lower level. And communication, it has to be communicated. And sixth one is legal and regulatory compliance. So we'll have to be compliant with all the laws prevailing. And if the company has business in other countries, you'll have to comply with those laws also. Okay. So what is the risk? So the new law which is going to come says, if a person separates from an organization, you will have to make the full and final settlement within 3 working days. Now, so far we have been doing it within a month in case of separation. Ideally, within a month. Retirement, superannuation means on the same day. But for resignations, whether voluntary, obviously voluntary, we're not speaking about involuntary. voluntary resignations, we are doing it within 30 days. Now the new law says, new labor law says it should be done within 3 days. How feasible is it? Whether you have the technology in place? Seventh one is workplace investigations and audit. And you should also ensure if there is any, you should also ensure that the whistleblower policy is implemented in letter and spirit. If anybody raises the issue, the message should go that the person who is raising the issue will not be undergoing any retaliation. Then final one is reporting. What are the reporting mechanisms? How to report, where to report, which are the agencies whom we need to report. Then the ninth one is evaluation. What are the evaluation of risks associated with these strategies? So the HR professional should be continuously evaluating the risks associated with these strategies. So these are the 9 competencies which advanced HR professional or a CHRO should possess as far as the risk management domain is concerned. Yeah.
Thank you for talking about all of these topics, sir. Thank you for answering all the questions.
Yeah. And we'll get into the Q&A. If there are any, we'll get into open house. We are exactly on dot, I think. Just 3 minutes.
Participant, now we can have Q&A session. You can unmute or type the question in the chat box.
1 question at a time. I can take 5 questions for the day. We'll conclude the meeting. But I need some questions, definitely. Without that, I'm not going to log off. It should be interactive, yeah. Otherwise, it's boring. Otherwise, I will feel that you have not understood the subject. Can be anything related to risk management. It is a elaborate subject.
Sir, how often the company refers as assessment of top risk, sir?
How often the company
Refresh is assessment of top risk.
assessment of risk,
risk.
sir?
Yeah, sir, risk, sir.
Ideally, if you ask me, we are living in a VUCA world, okay, in a very volatile world. Every day it is changing like anything. A very uncertain world we are living, VUCA world. Volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. That is the world which we are living. If you ask me, ideally, at least I would say once in a quarter. This is my perspective, though opinions vary. Generally, they do it before the annual general body meeting. They place this risk management document, but that is done in letter, but not in spirit. If you want to do it in letter and spirit, it should be done once in a quarter.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So there's a question in the chat box. What common risk HR manager should recognize and what are the ways to reduce the risk in the workplace? This question was asked by Soumya, sir. It is in the chat box.
Okay, it's a good question actually. So there are many risks which a HR pro would actually face in his job during the course of the career. He will face many risks. It may relate to all of your HR processes. He may face a risk related to recruitment. In hiring, he may face a risk. Suppose if he advertises this position, it's just a hypothetical one. I'm not referring to any organization or any thing. These are my personal views and not taken from anywhere. So suppose if a position is being advertised in the Hindu or the Times of India, okay, per se. So there may be a pressure from the external environment to induct a certain person, or there may be some political affiliation in the nearby vicinity. Some politician may call and say, recruit this person, though he may not be possessing the desired competencies. Will be under pressure to recruit. But if you recruit, one bad hire is going to cost you terribly. I'm saying you. This is from my experience. I'm saying it's going to cost you like anything. It's going to cost you like anything. One bad hire is enough. Okay, it's not like buying a vegetable, it becomes rotten and you trash it. It's a human resource, right?
Yes,
There are various laws to protect the people. So be very careful, especially in hiring. And in hiring is one of the cases I'm saying. When it comes to industrial relations, again, suppose if you are signing a long-term wage settlement, any long-term wage settlement is governed by bargaining precedents, whatever you have done in the past. So, so during a particular time, suppose if the company is doing good, and if you give a phenomenal hike, but later on you realize after it's a long-term settlement, when the next settlement comes due, you realize the company is not in a position to offer that hike. Can you go and negotiate with those people, those union people? You have already given a X percentage. Now they will ask for X plus one. You cannot do it, my dear friends. You cannot do it. That's a huge risk. Therefore, be practical about negotiation. So these are few examples. Like this, I can give in each process. We don't have time for that.
yeah, okay, sir. The next question is how
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I am Ritanisha and I have a question. How effective is the company in managing its top risks, sir? Are there any organizational blind spots?
Yeah, COVID is one. Yeah, nobody predicted. COVID is one huge. It is an eventual blind spot, I would say. It became an eventual blind spot. No one predicted it would be of to this magnitude. Even many stalwarts were saying in the industry, it will go off in 3 months. I still remember during March 2020, it will go off in 3 months. Everything will restore. Till today, see now how we are discussing through virtual mode. The world has become virtual. So COVID is one big blind spot as I see. Like that, many blind spots may come. Slowly, a small competitor will come. You do not know. You may think he is a ant. Um, so after a certain period, you will realize that he is an elephant.
Okay, sir.
So next question is during risk assessment, does the company take compliance seriously? Are these adequate resource? This question is asked by Aarti, sir. In the
Yeah,
chat.
certainly. If compliance is not taken seriously, the shop will be shut. Who asked this?
Sir,
Aarti,
Aarti.
sir.
Aarti. Okay, the shop will be shut. The company, for that matter, anything, even if it's an educational institution or a company or a factory or even a meat processing shop, whatever it is, your new age technology, it will be shut. You're not here to exist. They will lock your company. Compliance is the topmost priority. One final question we can have, and we can call it a day. One final
So
question.
there are actually two more questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I can take it. Yeah,
Okay,
please.
sir. So this question is given by Netaji Joe. What are the risk factors we can face as a beginner or a fresher in the HR field in a company with or without labor welfare organizations in a company?
See, as a beginner in the organization, you will be facing. I'm not saying that. See, you will be required to learn actually during the training period. So, if you're getting hired, maybe your placements may be going on. If you're getting hired by a reputed organization, so they will put you into training. So, you're required to complete the training period successfully, professionally. Then you will be absorbed into the roles of the company. If it's a professionally managed company, I don't see any risks for the freshers as such, unless and otherwise the freshers themselves create any risks for them. I don't see any risks. If there's a good learning environment, if the learning environment is good, if there is a good learning management system in place, if there is a good culture, I don't see any risks. So that's why we were discussing about the barriers, cultural barriers. The culture is good, the learning environment is good. I don't see any risks. So it's up to you. You have the whole world to conquer to any level. I don't see any risks. 82 startups have achieved unicorn status so far, and last year around 42 startups have achieved unicorn status. 7,000 crores market valuation. Unicorn means a startup, a privately funded startup which achieves 7,000 crore market capitalization, which is phenomenal. So I don't see any bottlenecks or anything. It's up to you.
So, last question by Dr. R. Arukyadas.
Yeah.
So, why do management of government companies not take risk assessment properly?
I don't actually agree with this. It's my perspective, though it may be right in certain industries. See, if you take the oil industry as such, oil and gas, there you will have to do a proper risk assessment. Otherwise, you are gone. Okay, lives are at stake. Um, uh, the responsibility and the liability and the accountability for a risk management program in public sector undertakings, which the gentleman is asking, um, is much more higher than a private entity. I would say. It's not that they're not taking seriously. Maybe they have multiple layers, and maybe the hierarchy is wide, the span of control is wide, hierarchy is wide. Um, uh, Maybe the organization structure allows them to do that. But having said that, certain companies, especially in the oil and gas sector, are achieving awards in the risk management arena.
Thank you so much for patiently answering the question, sir. We're done with the questions for the day.
Yeah, with this I'm concluding. Ma, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, and really I'm delighted to share my insights with all of you. And I really am overwhelmed with the number of participants. How many participants we had today?
Around 80, sir. Right now it's 84.
That's really good. It's good. Really, thank you. Thanks a lot to Martin sir and the team, DG Vaishnava team, for providing me this opportunity. In future also, I'm very eager to be one of your guest faculties. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your informative session. Now I request Arivichelvan of first year MAHRM to deliver vote of thanks for today's session.
Good evening to one and all. Gratitude is not in the words but in the heart which expresses it. It's not happiness that brings us gratitude, it's gratitude that brings us happiness. It brings me an immense pleasure and great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who have helped us in making this webinar resounding success. Before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. I, Arivachelvan, or from first year MAHRM, take this wonderful opportunity to thank our esteemed speaker, Mr. Chidambaram Ramanathan, HR Director, Gaius Networks, Chennai, for sharing his valuable insights and knowledge on the topic HR roles in risk management. I extend my gratitude to Mr. Chidambaram for gracing today's webinar. Thank you, sir, for the thought-provoking and interesting session. Here, I would like to share a few key takeaways from today's webinar. Risk management process should be aligned with organizational strategies. By applying the principles and overcoming the barriers, the organization can achieve its objectives. The risk management process includes the identification of risk, analyzing, evaluating, treating, monitoring the risk, and reviewing the risks. Risk scorecard can be used to reflect the severity of risk to some factors like even possibility, probability, speed, occurrence, mitigation, like mechanism, some of the important HR competencies. Business acumen, communication, pestle factors. Pestle factors means political, economical, social, technological, legal, and environmental, and reporting mechanism are some of the important HR competencies for HR management. We, the future HRs, would really work on the understanding provided by our lively speaker. Sharing is caring is an age-old proverb. True to this thought, I would like to thank management, our respected principal, Captain Dr.S. Santhosh Baboo, the pillar of our PG department of HRM, HOD Dr.N.C.Martin for arranging this webinar and for his guidance and moral support. Also, I would like to thank faculty coordinator, Professor Snega, for support to organize this webinar, providing us an enlightening to this pragmatic arena of HR. Finally, I extended my gratitude to participants from various professionals, students, and making this webinar a great success. Kindly fill the feedback form which is provided in the chat box. Once again, I thank everyone for the cordial cooperation. Stay safe, stay vaccinated. Thank you all. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You made a very excellent session to us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.